Okay, so we're looking at 7E Part 2, Question 11. Just be aware that not all of the questions are required, or not all the questions in this book are in the course. So make sure you're referring to your course outline. Question 11 is in the course. So this is 7E Part 2, Question 11. And you have to find some unknowns. So maybe if I do every second one, A, C, and E. All right. Okay, the height of a rectangular prism with base 5 by 3 and the volume 40. So I would draw one out. Base 5 by 3. All right. Going to be interesting trying to draw this. I always draw these from the top down. Right, but we'll try and get these dimensions onto the base. So here's my rectangular prism. They said the base is a 5 by 3. We don't know what the height is, but we know that the volume is 40. Okay, centimeters cubed. All right, so if I was to work out the volume normally, I would say the volume would be 5 times 3 times height, right? I could find the area of that base and times it by this height, right? You might want to think about this as a length times a width times a height, okay? In this instance, I know this number here, it's 40, so we can put that in. All right. I know what 5 times 3 is as well. It's 15. Times height. So what we're left with here is that 15 times some number has to equal 40. And we're trying to find out what would that number be. 15 times some number. So 15 times 2, that's 30. 15 times 3 is 45. That would be too high. So it's going to be some number between 2 and 3. Probably closer to 3. The way you can do this is divide both sides of the equation by 15. Right? At the moment, we have a height times 15 on this side of the equation, but we don't want that. We just want the height by itself. And I think, well, how do I get rid of this times by 15? You divide by 15. You do the opposite of timesing, which is dividing. And then what will happen there is that this will cancel out and just equal 1. 15 divided 15 is 1. And you'll be left with just the height. So the answer will be 40 divided 15. And we could simplify this fraction. 40 and 15 both divide by 5. So this would be 8 on 3 centimeters cubed. And I'd be tempted to leave the answer like that. Maybe if we give it one decimal place, we could say this is 2 point, so it's 2 2/3, 666 recurring. Maybe we could round and say it's about approximately equal to 2.7 centimeters. Now I've made a little mistake here, putting a 3 in, right? We've got to be very careful with our units. We're finding a height, that's just a length. It doesn't need, it's measured in centimeters. It's not cubic centimeters. It does not need a 3 or a 2 above the centimeters there. Okay, so that first one, A, maybe I can just leave the answer. Let's say it's approximately 2.7 centimeters. We'll erase some of this, do another question. Notice that for a lot of these questions, I will draw a diagram. In fact, for all of them, I'll always draw a diagram. I think it finds it makes the question a lot easier. Okay, C. The height of a cone, a glass cone, with a base radius 12.3 and a volume of 706. I'm going to draw the cone. Not particularly well. Looks like a clown's hat. Right, that can be a radius in there. Right, the radius is, it's my radius. The radius is 12.3. Right, the volume, 706. And if we were working out the volume normally, we'd need to know the height of the cone. Okay? So, volume of a cone is 1/3 times pi r squared times the height. Okay? And we know all of the information is known. All of this is known except for the height. Okay? So let's plug in what we do know. Right? 706 is our volume. All right, we've got 1/3 times pi, it's just a number, times 12.3 squared times a height. What I'm going to do next is make all of this, I'm going to make all of that just one number. All right, so I'm going to do 1/3 times pi times 12.3 squared. If we go to our calculator, right, we've got 1/3 times pi, make sure you know where your pi button is, times 12.3 squared, and that's 158.4. Right, we'll keep that to one decimal place, 158.4. I'm going to write that down before I forget it. 706 equals 158.4 multiplied by the height. So what that means is that 158.4 times some height, some value, has to equal 706. Okay, maybe this height's roughly about 5 or 4 perhaps. 4 15s are 60, so 600. I think the height's going to be somewhere between 4 and 5 centimetres. Okay. Where I'd like to be is have an equation in this form where I just have height equals. But at the moment, I have height times this number. I need to get rid of that. I need to undo or reverse times in by 158. So what I do is I divide by 158.4. You need to do that here, and you need to do it over here as well. Otherwise, the equation won't be equal anymore, right? So the answer is going to come from taking 706 and dividing by 158.4. Let's see what that equals. Back to the calculator. So we need 706 divided by our previous answer equals, it's a bit hard to read, but it says 4.456. Let's make it approximately 4.5 with some rounding. So change these equals to approximately equals 4.5 centimetres. Okay, so that was C, approximately 4.5 centimetres. And we'll make some room for the next one, E. Okay. Now the reason I went for just 1 decimal place, I was just having a quick look at the book's answer there. They've used 2 decimals. I think 1, because we started with 1 here, even a whole number, I'm wondering. But I think 1 decimal's fine. What you need to be on the lookout for really is when the question says find two decimal places. Right, so it's when a question specifies how many decimal places, that's when it's going to affect your mark on a test. You lose a half a mark if you don't get the number of decimals right. All right, there's a cylinder and another cone. Well, we sort of just did a cone. Oh yeah, that is a bit harder because it's squared. A cylinder. No, these two will be similar, right? E and F slightly harder because in these formulas the radius will be squared. But let's draw out our cylinder. We know the height, we know the volume. Okay. So I'm doing E here. The cylinder will have a certain radius, R. We don't know what that is. We know the height is 6.2. And we know that the volume of this cylinder is, I've copied the wrong number down. The height was 4.6. Just rewrite that again, 4.6 centimeters. The volume is 43.75 cubic centimeters. Okay, so the volume of a cylinder is pi times the radius squared times the height, right? We know this number, we know pi, it's always the same number, and we know the height. There's just this radius squared that we don't know. Okay, so we'll put in all the information we do know. 43.75 is the volume. That's pi. I might actually pop the radius squared out to the end of the equation. So let's do pi times the height, 4.6, times the radius squared. And I'm really using the same procedure I used in the last 2 questions. We're going to make this one single number, and then we're going to divide by that number on both sides of the equation. All right, so what is pi times 4.6? Pi times 4.6 is 14.45. Write that in. 43.75 equals 14.45 times the radius squared. Now we're going to divide both sides by 14.45. So that leaves us with the radius squared equaling that number divide 14.45. Because remember, when I divide this side by 14.45, these will cancel out and they'll equal 1. You'll have 14 divided 14 equals 1, right? But over here, I'll have 43.75 divide 14.45, and we need to know what that number is. So back to the calculator. We've got 43.75 divided by 14.45, and that equals 3.027. Let's make it 3.03. So I'll go to 2 decimals, round up the 2. 3.03. And we might think that we're finished at this point, but we're not, because what we found for this question, and also it'll be the same in the next one, F, what we've actually found is the radius squared, not the radius, right? All right. We're almost there. We just have to do one more thing. But how would I go from the radius squared back to what I really want to know about, which is the radius. Right? How do you undo squaring of a number? What you do is you square root that number. Okay? And you need to do that on both sides of the equation. So square rooting a radius squared just gives you the radius. Square rooting 3.03 is going to be approximately 1.9, I'd say. Let's just have a look. So we take our answer and we square root it. Your square root is there on your calculator here. Right. We're square rooting this number, and the answer is, it's a bit hard to see, 1.739. Let's just call it 1.7. I'm going to have to delete this. 1.74. I think 1.7. Right? 1.7 is close enough. So we would say that the radius is approximately equal to 1.7 centimetres. Now, it's always good to check the answer in the back of the book. The book has called this 1.74. Personally, I think it's better to just do it to one decimal place. Okay, thank you for watching.